Hey Forex Fortune Hunters, it's Tom Wilmot. The other day we completed a video and posted it on YouTube that showed how 5 of our templates that we created in Metatrader handled one currency pair to show you how to get in and how to get out, where the hot spots are, where the trend is changing. Today we're going to switch it around a bit, and I'd like to take one of those templates, actually one of them that was in our original book from back in 2015, and take a look at how it compares on multiple currency pairs. Now, we're recording this in the middle of the virus on the 31st of March 2020. That's a Tuesday. We're taking a look at how these currency pairs react to our template, and we call that template Thailand 1.0. So, hold on to your hat. We'll get started right after this. Okay, Fortune Hunters, now a couple of program notes. I'm going to leave in the description to this video, down underneath the video, a couple or 3 links for you to see and to potentially use. Number 1 is that link to the Amazon book, The Amazing Zealander Fly Trap Forex Trading Strategy that we did back in 2015. And the reason I mention it is that today we're going to be using this template we call Thailand, and it is exactly the same as the methodology 2 that we described in our book. So if you need a refresher on it, there it would be. And then additionally, I'm happy to say that we just published a second report on Kindle, and that report is called Forex Power Surge. And so in that book, we're going to describe all the templates that we did for you in the last video, and we'll also be including a link to that video so that you won't have to scratch around to find it. It will be in our channel, which is called Vineyard FX. It will be in the list of templates. The list of videos that are called new releases or something of that sort. So we'll give you a link to all of those things, and you can always check on fxfortunehunter.com as well. So I'm not trying to slow you down here, but those are some points where you can find more information. So now here we have it today, the pound and the US dollar 5-minute chart. I want to show you that, and it's a little difficult to see on the video, I know, because the lines are dim. So let me show you how to change that. Actually, we're going to go to Session Times, and we're going to edit. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make some differences here. We've got a red one, and let's change that because it doesn't look very clear at all. We're going to make that white. I'll make that mint cream and so forth. And the other thing we could do with this is we could make them bigger, and that will simply, that's another way I can make it clearer for you here. You may or may not want to make these changes on your own Metatrader templates. So anyway, here we go. There we are. Now that's a little clearer. And what I wanted to show you here was that this is what I call the 7 o'clock US Open. That's 7 o'clock East Coast time in Boston and New York. So now we also have the opening of the New York Stock Exchange, which is here at 9:30. And if we back up, this is the typical, the historic opening of the London Exchange, 3 a.m. In Boston, New York time, so that's about 7 o'clock there. But I also include now a yellow line here for 2 o'clock in the morning Boston time, because I think there's considerable activity now on the continent in Frankfurt and other places that is not replacing London, but it's supplementing London. So you tend to get some action starting about 2 a.m. Boston time. Now, just to make sure you understand also, this means for those of us who are trading these patterns that these particular time frames, when the new money comes into the market, would be, the New York and U.S. Open, and that's become much more active than it used to be. The London Open, of course, and then the Asian Open, which is in the evening. Now, the evening, of course, for the Asian folks from Australia to Hong Kong and so forth would be back in Singapore, would be back in the area of the morning session for us here, because it's a 12-hour differential, give or take. If you were trading this in England or in the Netherlands or in Germany, you'd be trading this particular 7 a.m. open here later in the afternoon. And for sure, the only people that really have problems with this would be maybe West Coast people who'd have to wake up especially early, 3 hours ahead of that 7 a.m. hour. It gets you back into that 3 a.m. hour. So you might be having to trade this pattern in a different time frame, but I would stick to when the new money is likely to enter. So in any event, let's continue now with that. I'm going to go back and change those lines just a little bit here. Back to the original, one of the original templates, see where we are here with that one. And what I did was to make a copy of it here for, let's see, Thailand 1.0. So now we have our dimmer lines here. Bottom line is at 2 a.m. the market started to heat up. We had a little bit of a downturn here, and the idea with this template is that we get in after a pullback. Now what happened here was the pullback was severe, looked like this was going to be a false breakdown. We had a situation where we actually came all the way back up here and then cut through. So I'm not sure we'd want to be taking any kind of a trade to the downside here, because there's no confirming downward candle after the pullback to the bands. Unlike up here, where we've changed ourselves around and we have our upward arrow saying that this is the 12 is crossing over and therefore confirming the change in trend which occurred here at the medallion. This begins to show us that a pullback into the bands here and a pullback towards the line. So if you were to set your stop below the line here, I'd give it, say, 10 pips, 5 pips in this area just below. And then if you can get a 5 pip kind of move down close to the line, your maximum exposure is like 15 pips on a 5-minute chart. Now, if you choose a higher time frame like a 15 or a 30, obviously you're going to have to make that adjustment and maybe drop your contract size down a bit. But you can see here that as we got to the 7 o'clock hour, we really started to make our move. So if you're watching this between 6 and 7 o'clock, just trying to check and see what's going on, if you had even taken the first pullback after the arrow, if you were up between the 3 a.m. and the 7 a.m. time frames, you still would have been safe because your pullbacks never exceeded the Zealander fly trap signal line, which is right here. And just to show you, once again, this is the pound versus the dollar. We had a situation here where if you'd been in this area, you'd have had a nice move of 95 pips during this crazy expanded average true range time of the virus, 95 pips. So there we go. Now let's quickly change over to the euro and see what we had going on here. I'm going to go back. That was another of our templates I had here on the thing. Let's see what we got going on. Come on. Let's see what we've got. It isn't going to let me do this. Here we go. Sorry for that. Thailand. There it comes. Now we're going to go over this way. Here are our same lines, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Now, in terms of the euro versus USD, you were in better shape if you were trading this from the continent, because here was your down arrow, here was your pullback to the bands, here was the thrust downward, and then a continuation. And you can see what I mean about getting started a bit early here with the overnight session back at the 2 a.m. hour if you are trading in the Europe kind of situation. So that would be like 6 a.m. Over on the continent, and maybe a little later than at 7 a.m. if you were in Frankfurt, let's say, or Paris. Okay, now I wanted to back up because look at what happened last night. You can see you want to watch out for those fundamental announcements. I haven't made as much of this as perhaps I should have recently, but bottom line is when China announced that its production capacity had increased dramatically over the last month or so since the last numbers were released. This is the changeover in the Asian session. We had this enormous drop and then a quick rebound, a little bit of a pullback, and then a pullback into the bands here. This was the fundamental announcement of that you could find on Forex Factory, and once again you could double check on that for the 31st of March. Okay, now we come over here, we notice that's the area, and then you see you get over into this area and it's not quite as clear. But if you were to drop down here in the beginning of the New York Stock Exchange time, perhaps there's something going on in this area. You could trade off of a 1-minute chart. We won't get into that right now, but you can see that day after day we get these kinds of moves, and they are very substantial and easily tracked. So once again, our Z-Lander signal line is helping us. Notice also, though, that before we get the confirmation with the arrow up, we're clearly not getting the continuation of the trend until we've moved through those areas and are confirming the trend is either higher or lower. Oh, let's take one last look here, and we'll take a look also at the US dollar versus the I'm trying to find my template here, sorry about that. The US dollar and the Japanese yen, USD.JPY, obviously. And look what happened here as we moved into the 7 o'clock hour. Once again, a sensitive currency pair to the dollar and the US time frame. We had a significant move. We did have a confirmation and not a bad uptrend in the middle of the London session here. We were able to get 22 pips out of this particular move, but you can see it was quite muted. We had, I'll move this open for you here. Let's see what we got going on. You can see here a couple of upward candle wicks here indicating there's some selling pressure coming in, and then a reversal to the downside. Now we have our arrow down here, and we have a pullback into the bands perfectly situated for us, and then another pullback into our 12 through 24 EMA list. Notice also that when you're in this white over the red here on your stochastic, you want to be very careful until you get the crossover to the downside. And also notice here on our RSI, this nice holding between the 45 and 55 bands. So there are 3 currency pairs with clear results for you no matter which part of the world you're trading in. This is the indicator that's really, and template that's really been working effectively for me for the past 5 years, since 2015. I hope you will be able to get some use out of it and keep you trading with the trend. So if you like us, please subscribe, give us a high five, give us a like. It helps get the word out. If also you need any of these indicators and templates, as many of our loyal members and watchers have found out, we'll be happy to give you a link to a Dropbox.com file where you can download all those indicators for free. Just sign up and click the links in the description. So until next time, we'll take a look at another one of the templates and try to go in depth on how it compares from currency pair to currency pair. Until then, let's get some pips. Trade safe now. Stay safe. Be well. See you next time.